Welcome to Familypreneur, the podcast for parent entrepreneurs
raising kidpreneurs.
It's time for your weekly dose of inspiration and actionable tips to build your business and find better balance, all while strengthening your family. And now we'd like to introduce your host.
She's my mom and thebomb.com, Meg Brunson.
Hey there, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Familypreneur podcast. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you may be familiar with today's guest. She joined us for an episode that dropped back in January and is joining us again to continue the conversation from a different perspective. She's a nutritionist and feminine energy expert who puts energy and power back into women's bodies who desire more in health and love. In January, we talked about how this all relates to our business, and today we're going to talk about how it all relates to our daughters. I'm excited to reintroduce you to Dorit Palvanov.
Hey, Dorit, welcome back. I'm excited to have you guest up here again.
Thank you. I'm so honored to do this again.
Well, like I said, it's a very unique topic. I haven't heard a lot about it in other podcasts and stuff like that. And with our focus on familypreneurship and, a big focus on moms, and as a girl mom myself, it's one of those topics that I just kind of wanted to explore a little bit more. I love talking about productivity from the mom's point of view, but I know that there's also a whole other side of things when we're talking about our kids. So I'm hoping that this episode, we can focus on our children, and then people can go back and listen to the other episode if they want to hear about how it relates to their own productivity. And I think it'll be a nice kind of split.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. It has to begin with the mom. It has to begin with the one that leads the family, with the adult in the family. Because at the end of the day, it's really all about modeling. And then there's also a lot to be said about their experience, because they're experiencing this from a different perspective, right? They are in a younger body. Their mindset is a little bit different. It's much different. Their experience is just different. And so how do you bridge between the two, connect with your daughter in a way that she will actually listen, and then, building on that.
So just in case people are listening right now and they didn't listen to your first episode, we'll definitely encourage them to go back and listen to that. But can you just start with a brief recap of who you are, what you do, so that people who may not have listened can kind of catch up quickly?
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to. So my name is Dorit Palvanov. I am a registered holistic nutritionist, and I'm also a feminine energy expert. What that means is that I mainly work with executives, women who are executives, CEOs, women who are in very high-powered positions in the workplace, who are learning and who are desiring and who are craving to embody more of their feminine essence. And I do this so that they can finally feel like they can breathe. These women are, many times they bear the responsibility of providing for the family financially. And that on its own, in our society had brought on so much change in terms of our culture. It is fairly new for the woman to take on the role of the provider. And so what that does is that a lot of us begin to be more in our masculine, meaning in their producing and in the go, 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 push, push, push mentality, which is, let's just face the truth. This kind of mentality is more for men. It's made for men. It's more sustainable for a man. But because our biology, our hormones, and our mindset and our brain are wired so differently, so much differently than a man's, brain and body and biology and even the gut and the digest. Like there's just so much that is different. And again, I'm reminding for those who did not listen to the first episode, being different does not imply being inferior. It's just different, right? Men and women are different. So when I say those things, please don't interpret me as being a man hater. I am not. I'm married to a husband. I love him dearly. I have a dad. I love the men in my life. It's really all about balance. But especially for us women, it's really understanding and embracing the fact that because our bodies are so different, because we have ovaries, this also means that it is not sustainable for us to be constantly producing nonstop. And the result of this, and I'm sure you guys are all familiar, is burnout. So many women are just completely squeezed and sucked dry because they never stop, because they never pause, because they don't have that habit of slowing down. And, to say, there's so much to say, but that is what I call being more in the feminine. So I hope it makes sense to for those people who did not listen me on the first episode.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about cycles, right? So obviously the feminine cycle is, I feel like, very clear and obvious for most of us grown women who have been experiencing menstruation and periods for years. But I'm excited. We also talked about the men's cycle, which was kind of new to me. So definitely go back if you want to listen about the men's cycle. But now that we're talking about children and girls, the first question I have is, before girls become women, before they have their first period, do they have a cycle?
Okay, so that's a great question. So they don't. So what happens is it's almost until girls get their first period, there's really no difference between girls and boys. You probably don't really know this. So I don't either, because I also have only girls. But from what I've seen and the clients that I work with, it's pretty similar in terms of behavior and mindset and, the things that they're drawn to. The moment a girl begins having her period, and by the way, I'm gonna share some signs that you as the mom and even the dad should be looking out for in terms of anticipating, it's coming, because oh boy, you can definitely kind of know, oh my gosh, it's coming for sure. My daughter is going to get her period soon. But basically, because we understand all of this, right? It is really the reason this happens is because the hormones are really raging. And when our daughters get their period for the first time, what happens is many times the reason it is so intense is because it's like a rush of hormones all at the same time. And it's really challenging. It is. In terms of physically, it's challenging. All of a sudden they are the intense cravings for foods that they, you are surprised. Why is my daughter so obsessed over bread and white bread and sweets and cakes and what's going on, and chocolate? What is going on with my child? The fact that she might be really obsessed with beauty magazines and just, her body and her hair and that kind of stuff, and her skin. And she might be starting to get pimples all over her face. That is intense. It is very, very intense. Boys don't have that. Boys also go through puberty in their own way, but I feel like the hit, it's much more, it's a lower impact of the hit, if that makes sense. So like I said, in terms of anticipating, girls usually will become much more chatty. They would want to talk more. They want to share more, or the opposite. So it depends on your daughter's personality, right? If she is a very outgoing person, she would like want to share more and talk more. But if she's a more reserved and introvert, she would close off more. So this is something to really pay attention to. Another thing that might happen is, so like I said, the skin, you for sure will start noticing her skin changing. Obviously facial hair, so like a mustache and like on the side of the jaw area. Obviously their eyebrows will thicken. They'll get more hair on their body. Pubic hair, obviously, their nipples and their breasts will start to kind of like be more visible. There's a lot of changes that happen. Another thing that I've noticed is all of a sudden they have this urge to be touched. And that's a normal need that I think as human beings, we all have, to the need, the desire for a loving touch. And the more close you are with your daughter, the more, the stronger the connection that you have, the more inclined she would be to ask you and tell you, Mommy, I need to be touched, or Daddy, I just have this desire to be hugged. And that's okay. That is normal. So the more we kind of normalize this conversation, the easier and the more confident they will grow to become women. In terms of the first period, when this happens, I think it is such a blessing to celebrate instead of something that you just ignore or just say, oh boy, like, now you're gonna like, welcome to womanhood. Here's some tampons and like, suck it up. Instead of doing that, it's really the celebrating of it. It's the, honey, congratulations. Being born a female is such a blessing. There's, yes, it's challenging. Yes, it's nerve-wracking. And, there's this tendency for drama and just like very intense emotions, which is, by the way, a gift when you channel it in the right direction. But, but it's also a gift. It's a blessing. You get to carry a human and you get to, your intuition is so, the depth that you have with your intuition and the force that comes with that, the power that comes along with that. It's all a blessing. And when we teach our daughters to embrace the, both feminine and masculine energies that they have, I think what happens is we will raise a generation of women who are willing to do good work in the world, who are willing to do good, but without killing themselves in the process. Yes, of course, there's so much to be done in the world. There is so much to heal. There's so much to fix. But why can't we do that in a way that is serving for everybody? That, we don't have to finish the entire like resources, to complete all the resources. And a lot of it happens on our expense. At the expense of our health. At least this is the demographic that I'm working with. A lot of these women who are really successful in their careers, they are really, really sick. They're not healthy. They're not well mentally. They're not well emotionally, and they're definitely not well physically. And so that's I feel like that is where this work is really important.
So can you, similarly to how we did last time, can you go through what those 4 steps to the cycle are, the 4 phases, and kind of break it down from a teenage point of view, or even from a parenting perspective? Like, when I know what stage my child is in, how I should parent her differently?
Yeah, that's a good question. So first of all, Meg, it's really important to understand that when our daughters get their first period, it's also called menarche, okay? Other people call it menarche. It is not exactly the way we understand it, meaning it is not yet so fine-tuned. So it takes a minute. Like it takes them a few years for it to get into like this rhythm where it is clear, in terms of like the energetics of the menstrual cycle, and then the ovulatory cycle, right? The menstrual phase, and then the ovulatory phase, and the follicular phase, and the luteal phase. Like now you and I are pretty clear in terms of how that feels. But when our daughters just get their cycle, it will take them 2, 3, sometimes 4, 5 years in order for this to kind of get into full rhythm. And the meaning of that, there is a lot of implication for us parents for our entire home life, right? Because what that means is that, yes, there's going to be more drama. There's going to be more yelling. There's going to be more, feeling close. There's going to be a lot of like, kind of like separation between us and our child. And that's normal. That's how it's supposed to be. I call it individuating. Yeah, they need this. This needs to happen in order for them to begin to learn who they are. Because when our kids are growing, it's really for them in terms of like their psyche and the way their brain develops. They don't see themselves as separated. They don't see themselves as separate from us or from, the family. And all of a sudden this starts and their body is changing and it's all at once and it's so intense. Plus, it happens in middle school where there's like more of a load in terms of like schoolwork and all that. And then they're beginning to be noticed by boys and they begin to notice boys. It's like, it's really intense. It is. So in terms of the 4 phases, I think it's not so much tuning into their body's menstrual cycle, to the period of their body, as much as it is to just, I think there's not going to be 4 phases. There's going to be maybe 2, right? So so you will clearly notice the menstrual phase. So when she will get her period, it's also not going to be so clear. It's not going to be like, for, let's say I have it 5 days and it's been consistent like this for many, many years. With our daughters, it might be 3, it might be 7, it might be 10. Like it's crazy like that, right? Until it recalibrates. So, but you will very clearly see the energy will drop. She will feel more tired. She will feel more irritable, like she wants to be alone. And that is normal. So their energy will drop immediately once they get their period. And that will be pretty clear for us to see. Plus, hopefully, the languaging around it at home will be kind of like, it's normalized, right? So it's normal for her to share with you that she's on her period. I mean, you will be the one buying the menstrual pads for her. So in that regard, hopefully there is open communication. But for you also to share with her, how you feel when you menstruate and your need for rest, right? So hopefully the way I envision it is that she had seen me practicing, living in alignment with my feminine current for, a few years before she herself got into that rhythm herself, so that it's a second nature. Like she knows, oh, okay, so that's what I do when I menstruate. That's what I do in my follicular. That's what I do in my, and so on and so forth. But it's going to be very, very clear when she's in her menstrual phase. It will also be clear when she is in her ovulatory phase, because ovulatory phase is the time when the brain is really getting that ability to connect. So it's all about connection. Remember, biologically speaking, this is when we are primed for conception. So biologically speaking, if you're thinking about like from the standpoint of evolution, is the body wants you to procreate, right? To like attract a mate. And so so we would usually a female would be in her most magnetic self. Like she would want to connect and to be really out there, depending on her personality. But this is going to be very visible. Now, this has, of course, positives, a lot of positive, but also has its negative side. So she might be more rude. She might be just more irritable, more kind of like agitated, more, is this familiar for you, this kind of behavior? Because I see you're laughing, so maybe you want to share how that feels for you.
I have a 12-year-old. I feel like she's like that all the time.
Yeah, it sounds like her personality is just more bubbly.
Yes.
Yeah. So that kind of behavior, so imagine that intensified. So what you need to do as a mom is, first of all, you need to anticipate it and you need to normalize it. And I think what is really, really helpful, my daughters, they're still young, but what I've guided my clients through is to have that conversation with their daughters before it happens and even throughout. As many conversations as possible. Even if you find it really difficult to talk about it, what could be really helpful is even giving them books. There are tons of books on this topic. A few books that I can recommend, especially, I think it's really important for us moms. So number one book that every single female must read is Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom by Dr. Christiane Northrup. This is number one. The second book that I recommend, and it's really for to help moms and mothers and daughters to feel connected and to cultivate this beautiful relation over time, like over a lifetime. It's called Mothering and Daughtering by Sil Reynolds. And I think I'm going to share those links with you so that you can add them to the show notes so people can find them easily. And then the other book for an absolute must for girls is called The Confidence Code for Girls. So there is a confidence code for moms, for adult women, and there's also the confidence code for girls. So that is an absolute must for teenage girls to read. And what that does, it opens the stage for conversation, for nothing is wrong with you, sweetie. If you feel a certain way, you're not broken, you're not crazy, you're not a lunatic, like it's totally normal. All women, all females go through this, and that's normal. So let me guide you through this. This is what we can do. This is what we should do, right? So the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle are not really going to be that, you won't feel so much the follicular phase and the luteal phase, but you would definitely feel in terms of their behavior and how their energy, how they exude their energy. You would feel the energy of menstruation, and you would also feel the energy of ovulation. And even if you give them the languaging around it, is it's going to make it so helpful for them to just know that, oh, I'm good. Like, I feel like with females, we have this tendency to internalize as our fault. Right? As something that when something doesn't go the way we want it to be, or the way we perceive or think how it should be, right? Because as girls, we are conditioned to be pleasers and to obey and to follow the rules. That's just the reality of the conditioning of the current culture. And so when we do that, when we teach them that it's okay to not, follow what everybody else follows. It's okay not to own a phone. It's okay not to own devices. It's okay to, not follow the rules the way you're taught, because it is better to follow your heart. It also opens the window of helping and coaching our daughters to cultivate a really healthy body image, because when they menstruate, it is a bodily event, right? It's messy, it's stinky, it's not pleasant, right? unless we educate them and we teach them how to take care of themselves, how to, maybe you can get her a really cozy, like a bathrobe. And I remember my mom, she bought me one that was red. So it just made me feel like I was able to kind of like declare myself being, and I used to wear it only when I had my period. It was like stuff like that. My mom would also cook us, cook me, special meals, not like specifically for me, but she would like adapt our entire menu to like make me feel special. So things like that we can do to communicate the message that this is normal, and this is okay, and this is acceptable, and there's nothing wrong with you. So the more we help our daughters to do that, I feel like the more they can really embrace their own femininity, their own feminine power, and really do good with it.
Now, it totally makes sense. And it did bring a question to the top of my mind that I don't have this issue in my family. I know you don't have it in your family, but I'm wondering, what advice do you have for maybe a dad who is a single dad, or even like a 2-dad family who might be raising a daughter? I know there are, motherless or families without like a mother in the house. So how can a dad provide that same experience? I feel like it's got to be harder because it's not just showing her.
Yeah. So obviously there is a difference between, a dad or a mom, or a male, a man and a woman, male, female. There is a difference, of course. And however, I think the word hard doesn't sit well with me. I always prefer the word different. And remember that being different does not imply inferiority. So it's really about having an open communication. So if you as the dad can, really, and before I say that, I have to say, embracing vulnerability, embracing the, letting go of shame and guilt and all of that, because really it's such a waste of your human energy and your daughters also. And it will make such beautiful, so much beauty to your connection, to your relationship, as opposed to, making it like odd and weird. And it's like this huge elephant in pink elephant in the room, and everybody knows it's there, but nobody talks about it. It's like, why? My vision for a family, regardless of, if it's a mom or a dad, it doesn't matter. A family is a family, and family is all about connection. It's all about relationship. It's all about, my vision for family is I want my kids, and for my husband and myself, like to anybody, to all the people who live in this home, and I'm sure that it is the same for you and for the listeners, is to make this place a safe place to come back to, right? After going back to school and friends and all those, things, that's where we kind of lose a lot of, or give out a lot of our energy. So our home, it needs to be the place where we replenish that energy. So it needs to be, very safe in that regard. And especially for a female, as women, we know, as females, I should say, we know that we have a very strong need for safety. Safety is one of the most important things that every single female tells me. I need to feel safe, whether it is feeling safe in my body, feeling safe in my mind, feeling safe in my relationship. It all comes back to safety. So cultivating the sense of safety at home is important. And a dad can do it, a mom can do it. It doesn't matter. And then of course, remembering to have an open communication. Open. It has to always be open, and always has to be welcome. And many times I personally haven't worked with, only dad families, but what I assume would happen is that they might open this conversation up to their daughters, and their daughters would kind of like resist it in the beginning. And you need, as a parent, as the adult, you need to anticipate this resistance, but do not give up. Especially for teenagers, I feel like they're constantly testing. So what you need to do is, okay, she's not ready yet, and then come back with it, in a couple of weeks or in a couple of months. Maybe she doesn't want to talk about it openly, but maybe she would be open to reading a book or watching a YouTube video or whatever it is. Just do as much as you can to open up this conversation. And then ask her, well, I think you would know if she has her period or not, because she will ask you for menstrual pads and stuff like that. So you would know. But then ask, like, how do you feel? How do you feel in your body? Do you feel any changes? Is your tummy sore? Can I make you something to drink? Or can I, like, just make it so that they get the message of, I'm not sick. That she is not sick, that nothing is wrong with her. This is all normal and accepted by you, right? It's all about acceptance. The messaging you want to give them is that you accept it. You anticipated it, and you are totally embracing the wholeness and the fullness of this experience, right? There's nothing wrong with her. It's totally fine. And then maybe it opens up the conversation to talk about fertility and maybe contraception and, this kind of stuff. And yeah, it's going to be awkward. It's going to be weird. You might not have the languaging, where in this case, if it's really, really intense for you, I highly encourage you to work with a coach. So you can work with someone like me or with other people, or maybe with a therapist that give you the language to use in this interaction. Because the last thing you want to do is to, what's the word that I'm looking for? The last thing you want to do is to show them, to model fear, or to model, hiding. You don't want to do that, because then, and especially teenagers, I feel like they are so, they have like BS detectors all over them. Like they know when mommy and daddy say the truth, right? When something is real or when something is not real. Like they know, they're born with BS detectors. I think not only teenagers, but especially teenagers. I have a teenage sister, so I know. And then it's really about this open conversation, open book, sharing books, sharing videos, maybe attending some workshops. I know that in many yoga studios, they do beautiful mother-daughter workshops. And maybe even asking your daughter, if it's just dads, ask your daughter, do you need to talk to somebody? Would it be helpful for you to talk to a woman about it? So maybe there is a friend that you can set them up, right? It doesn't really matter how you do it. But for me, what matters is that she gets the message that she's accepted by you, and that you know that this is normal, and that she is entitled for this space, for this honoring, because it is in my culture, we're Jewish, and we celebrate. So for boys, we celebrate bar mitzvah. So when boys reach the age of 13, we have this party, and it's like an initiation party. But we have them also for girls. So when girls reach the age of 12, there is like a party and an initiation ceremony. And I think it's beautiful. So if you guys don't have that in your culture, make it, create some kind of a ritual, create some kind of a ceremony, take your daughter out for, a date, get your nails done, gift her flowers. Maybe you can, get something special for her as a gift, maybe a souvenir or something like that she will remember. Because the more you kind of make it a big deal, the more she would understand it is a big deal. My body is a big deal, and I can do such amazing things with my body. And then she would be much more inclined to living her life in alignment with the feminine current, which we talked about in last episode. So please, if you have no idea what that means, go there and listen. And that is, I feel like that's the tool that she would use in order to do good without killing herself in the process.
Awesome. Well, I feel like that totally rounded it out really nicely. This is exactly what I wanted to be able to include kind of on the last episode, and we just ran out of time. And I think it's important too, like as an entrepreneur, a familypreneur, it's one of those things that sometimes comes up when you least expect it, and it shouldn't. So I like that you gave some of those tips on how to see it coming, how to prepare for it, and then how to position it so that it's actually empowering for not only your daughter, but for the whole family.
Absolutely. It is power.
Yeah. So if you could share again where people can find you and learn more about you, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you. So I also am a podcaster. So if you resonate with whatever I talked about today, please head on over to the Confident, Energized, and Sexy Mama podcast. That's where I live. Online, my website is doritpalvanov.com. I'm going to spell it out for you. It's DORITPALVANOV.com. And I have a special gift for the listeners. If there are any mamas out there who are really feeling like they're completely burnt out and they have zero energy since, they getting married and then starting the family. And I get it. We all, get into the grind. Once we get into the grind of family life and then work and career and kids and it's very common for us to feel drained of energy. So what I've created a masterclass that is all about teaching you how to get your energy back instantly. So it's called the exact 3 steps to get your energy back after getting married and having kids. So to get access to that, what you need to do is to go to my website, so doritpalvanov.com/energy-masterclass. And I'm sure you'll include the link in the show notes. So head on over there and you'll get instant access. And the way I've designed it is so that you can learn how to change your energy instantly. It's not about working with a coach. It's not about, procrastinating. It's about learning the 3 tips, the 3 tools, 3 strategies to change your energy around instantly. And that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'll definitely link to all of this stuff. I feel like there's a lot of links for this episode that will be in the show notes. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to spend with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. It's always fun to chat with you, Meg.
Thank you.
Today you are in your RV, so that's amazing for me.
Yeah. I think last time I was at a McDonald's.
Yeah. Yes.
The road life.
That's it for today's episode of the Familypreneur Podcast. You will find all of the links mentioned in this week's episode and the show notes at megbrunson.com/podcast. Until next week, I'll see you over in the Familypreneur community. Bye for now.
Did you know that my mom has a Facebook page, Instagram account, YouTube channel, and more? Her username is The Meg Brunson. Just about everywhere. You should go follow her.